Child trafficking experts have said that the Netflix movie Cuties could be used to groom kids for sexual exploitation. Was that the point all along? Also, some horrifying facts, some horrifying statistics that you are going to need to know about child sex trafficking, even in your own hometown. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future of Peck Report, Daily Renegade, and a new/old show, an old show that's being revived. All that and more on today's Peck Report. Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. So I know many of you have taken part in the cancel Netflix campaign, and good for you. I'm one of them as well. We don't have Netflix at all. So for those of you who have canceled Netflix, if you're looking for somewhere to go where you can actually get good information, like good family, just something you can watch with the family, grow in the Lord more and not be exploited, you can go to dailyrenegade.com. You get the rest of this Peck Report. You get the full episodes of every show we do. And I'm also reviving an old show, my very first podcast that I ever did. When it first started, it was just called The Sharpening, and then later on I lengthened it to The Sharpening Report. I am bringing that back, and it's going to be here on Daily Renegade. It's not going to be on this YouTube channel. The Sharpening Report has its own YouTube channel. For a little while, we had a host, Sam Johnston. He's still going to be hosting at some point, but for now, I'm going to be uploading some interviews, and I already have a few lined up. So look forward to that. But make sure you get a membership at dailyrenegade.com. That's where you can get full content. You'll get full interviews from new episodes of the Sharpening Report coming very soon. You'll get full Peck Reports. And I'm also starting something new. I'm retiring Peck Report because like I said in a previous episode, I really want to back off of politics. And I gave all the reasons why in that episode, so I don't want to rehash all those here. But Peck Report was really designed for kind of politics, culture, society, that kind of stuff. And I really want to get back to more Bible study kinds of things. So I'm gonna finish up with these last couple of episodes on child sex trafficking, which is based on my new film, Silent Cry, The Darker Side of Trafficking, which I'm asking everybody, please go on Amazon and review it. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute, but I'm retiring that because, like I said, I want to get back more into Bible study, and Peck Report just doesn't have a Bible study feel to it, I might not retire it forever. It might be something where every once in a while there's something that happens politically or culturally that has a larger Christian message to it, or something that we as Christians can learn from, and then I'll post it as a Peck Report. So it's not being retired completely and forever, but chances are I'm just not going to be doing it as much. I want to focus more on Bible study stuff. So it's going to be JPD Weekly, that's actually what this YouTube channel is, JPD Weekly, and that is going to stand for Josh Peck Defense Weekly. So, we're going to be defending the scriptures. We're going to look into some apologetic things, theological things, definitely prophecy, because that's an area that I really enjoy and am interested in, and I know many of you are as well. So, Peck Defense is coming. I can't say exactly when, but it's coming soon. All right, so I want to talk about some of these statistics from my film, Silent Cry, and if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, please, you can go to skywatchtvstore.com and let me show you the things that you get with that, because it comes in this whole entire package here. It's called the Silent Cry Help the Children package. It's only a $35 donation. You don't only get the film, but you also get several other things that couldn't be included in the film. So a covert investigation DVD. This is the lead authorities from the film, and this is all of their deleted scenes, everything that couldn't be included in the movie, because these experts gave me hours of content that you can't fit into a 2-hour long movie. So We have a bonus disc with that has everything that they that couldn't be included in the movie. We have A Cult of Perversion, which is a brand new MP3 audio series. And we have experts on this like Russ Dizdar, William Ramsey, and others, and they share extremely sensitive research into the most perverse evils plaguing our country now. And we're not doing this for sensationalistic purposes. It's because there is a dark evil going on in even our small towns. If you live in a small town, you're not necessarily safe from this. And we need to know what those dangers are so we know how to protect against them. Fake News or Hidden Truth. This is a bonus DVD from Stephen Bancars that we filmed at the same time we did the movie. So we have my co-author, Stephen Bancars. He's an investigative researcher, and he guides you through the most current research from this year into the Pizzagate scandal. Was it all conspiracy? Who's involved? How does this pertain to events unfolding right now? So this isn't just rehashed information from 2016. This is the most up-to-date current information in this realm. And then we also have Epstein's Orgy Island MP3 audio disc, which is from Dr. Thomas Horn himself. He talks, and it's just packed with information about the occultism found on Epstein's Orgy Island. Now, if you do watch the movie, this is where it is on Amazon. You can just look up Silent Cry, or there's different movies with that title, so you can look up Silent Cry Darker or Silent Cry in My Name. It'll come up. Right now we have 16 5-star reviews. Everybody that's reviewed has given it 5 stars, and I'm assuming they're doing that honestly. It really is an important film, but the reason that I'm asking people to go and review this is because it convinces Amazon to start suggesting it to people. See this part here, customers who watch this item also watched. We're trying to get Silent Cry in this area. So when people watch a movie that relates to this topic at all, this will pop up and then they can be told about it. We're also trying to get it into the new release section of Amazon. So the way that we do that is you go to either Amazon or IMDb. You can go to both, actually, and leave reviews there. It really helps. You have no idea how far just your one review can take this film. And like I've said before, all the proceeds, all the profits from Silent Cry go to Whispering Ponies Ranch. So I'm not asking you guys to do this for me. I'm asking you guys to do this for children in need. Even just saying children in need is almost sugarcoating it. I'm asking you to do this for children who are being raped every day, who are being abused, and who need rescue. This helps get the word out. And Whispering Ponies Ranch is a place where kids who have been rescued from sex trafficking can go for healing, safety. It's a wonderful ministry. And so all the profits go to that. That's why I'm asking you to review it, because we can create a cultural shift, and it's up to the individual. We're not going to make some law that's going to automatically make everything okay. It's just not going to work that way, and we deal with that in the film too. So leaving a good review, it's not for my benefit, it's for the benefit of these children. Now, I want to talk to you about some really horrifying statistics that came up in the making of this film, and these are kind of grisly, but I think it's something that we need to know, because again, we just cannot have the attitude anymore that this is too horrific. I don't want to think about it. I can't deal with it. We actually deal with that in the movie, because one of the producers of the film, Joe Horn, he actually used to be in that mindset where he thought this is just too dark. I can't deal with it. I can't think about it. It's too dark for me. I will applaud and support ministries that deal with it, but I myself don't want to get involved. And in the movie, he tells the story about how God got a hold of him and basically showed him how that attitude is wrong. That attitude does nothing to help the children that are actually being abused. And in a way, it's a type of cowardice. And listen, I'm speaking from personal experience too, so I don't want to bash anybody. I have come out of that mindset myself. There was a time, I have 4 kids with a 5th on the way, 5th child on the way, and I can't imagine this. Even in looking into it and making this movie, I had to develop a sense of separation from it just to keep sane. But I realized I couldn't just ignore it anymore. So I think a lot of people find themselves in that, and I think just saying that, it's too dark for me to deal with, I think that's kind of a convenient excuse, because no one's asking you to look at pictures and watch videos of it happening. You don't even have to know really the gritty details. We leave a lot of that out of the movie, because it gets to a point where it's just sensationalizing it, and you don't need to know that stuff to know how bad it is and to know that these kids need our help. So while I said I'm going to get into some statistics, and they are horrifying, they are grisly, we don't get into the weeds in the movie on that stuff. We don't sensationalize it to the point of, look at this horrific thing. You're not going to watch a slasher film when you watch this movie. It's not anything like that. But we do need to, at the same time, not sugarcoat it, and we need to know what's actually going on in our towns. And our cities. It's obviously happening in the cities, but what a lot of Americans don't know is that it's happening in small towns as well. So here are some of the horrifying statistics that came up in research for this film that some of the experts in the film talked about. And again, if you want to get the film, skywatchtvstore.com, you can get the DVD with the whole package. If you want to just stream the movie by itself and you don't want any of the extra stuff, which you should get. I mean, there's really important stuff there that just cannot be covered in a 2-hour movie. But if you're just interested in the movie, go to Amazon. You can stream it on there. And please leave a review. It really helps. So something that came out, America is actually one of the worst countries in the world for human trafficking. And it's not just because of its size. It's because there are lots of big countries, but it's because many Americans will just ignore this topic. Again, it's either too grisly or they think it's all conspiracy theory. They think satanic panic and it's not real. Well, because of that attitude, for whatever reason that attitude comes up, because of that attitude, it wasn't really until this year that this topic started coming to light. And we find ourselves in a position where America is ranked one of the worst countries now in the world for human trafficking, a so-called Christian nation. And it's one of the worst in the world for human trafficking. 1 out of 4 victims of trafficking are children. 25%. 1 out of every 4 victims of trafficking are children. Anywhere between 500,000 to 1 million, possibly more. The million number, that I learned years ago. I mean, it was a long time ago. It was probably about 5 years ago at this point, that it could be up to 1 million. But that would have been back in 2015. It's likely a lot higher now. But again, statistics on these things are difficult to prove because only 1% of the crime is ever reported. But about 500,000 to 1 million, possibly more. It's definitely not less. But let's just say 500,000 at least. 500,000 children are being trafficked per day in America. So that's not just all the kids that are being trafficked in general. That's every single day. And these kids get cycled out because a lot of times they'll die or they'll rarely, sometimes they'll escape or be rescued, but a lot of times they're killed off, unfortunately. And the reason is because of a lot of it is the trauma of the crime itself. So a child who is trafficked is raped on average 5 to 15 times per day. So think about that. Every single day, at least 500,000 children are being raped 5 to 15 times in that day. I mean, that's once every couple hours. 500,000 kids are being raped once every couple hours. It's just horrifying to think about that. And it could very well be more. These are probably pretty conservative numbers because, again, some of these numbers haven't been updated as of yet. Just the information isn't available. And like I said before, only 1% of this crime is ever reported. So it's really hard to tell exactly how bad it is, but we do know it's at least this bad. It's at least this bad where 5 to 15 times a day, 500,000 kids are being raped on average every day in this country. This is not a worldwide statistic. That would be horrifying enough, even worldwide, if it was happening that much. But it's right here in America. Now, the average age of girls actively trafficked is 12 to 14 years, while boys is 15 years. But those numbers are actually a little bit skewed in a way. The number actually would be much lower. The average age would be much younger, but the average life expectancy of a child who's trafficked is only 7 years. So those 7-year-olds or younger or older, the kids who die, they're not factored in to the average, age of boys and girls that are being actively trafficked because they died. So the real number, if we did factor those in, would probably be closer to 8, 9, 10, something like that. But think about that again. The average life expectancy of a child who is trafficked, of those 500,000 kids to 1 million kids that's trafficked, their average age is only 7 years old. That's the life expectancy. They're not likely to live past 7 years old. That means half of them are younger, half of them are older. But that's the life expectancy. So this means that children who die, again, they're not counted in the average age of active trafficking. So it makes the age of the average age that kids are trafficked appear older. And even with that skew, it's still as young as 12 to 15 years old. Now, if the average life expectancy of child trafficking victims is 7 years, that means only half survive past 7 years, while half are killed at ages younger than 7 years. 7 years or younger. So kids, they die either by violence from the trauma of the rape itself, the drugs that they're given, so will sometimes kill them, suicide, sometimes they'll take their own lives. Or they die alone on the street. Even with adults, it's bad enough with the kids, and that's what I really want to focus on is the children. But even in adults, much of the so-called prostitution in this country is not even really prostitution by definition. It's sex trafficking because... and it's actually been discovered that over 98% of now this is the only global statistic I'm going to give you, 98% of global prostitutes are not actually prostitutes. They are trafficking victims. So only 2% of prostitutes who say that they're prostitutes, only 2% actually are. Why is that? It's because for it to actually be prostitution, by definition, it must be completely voluntary, meaning if there's any fraud, if there's any force, if there's any coercion whatsoever, if they've ever been raped or abused, or if they're told they have to do it to pay off debt, that's not prostitution. For it to be prostitution, it'd have to be purely free will. If there's any of this other stuff, it's trafficking. This is 98% of the cases of so-called prostitution. So, a lot of times in our country specifically, when people are fighting for the rights of prostitutes, what they're really fighting for is the freedom of traffickers to sell women and children. So that's really what they're fighting for, many of them not realizing it. Now, something else that's horrifying, too, is how these kids are being found by traffickers. Most assume that the majority of kids in sex trafficking got into it from a kidnapping. That's not often that's not the case. Sometimes children are found through boys and girls clubs or even in church settings. Kidnapping does happen. That absolutely does happen. But many times traffickers are more clever these days in their approach to procuring children, especially now that the internet is available. Traffickers will use children to recruit other children. Sometimes this means sending them into foster care. They actually want kids to go into foster care so they can have that kid go and recruit some of the other kids. Foster care or child protective services, and they do this in order to find other kids that the traffickers can target. So you literally do have 9-year-old kids recruiting other 9-year-olds because they don't know any better. A lot of times they're threatened. They have to. They either don't know any better, they're convinced that they have to, or they're threatened. Traffickers will use children to recruit other children, sometimes by sending them into schools to recruit other children. So we saw this in the case of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. They would rape a child, they would give that child money, and then they would tell that child to go to their school to find other children to bring over. Hey, do you have a friend that wants to make some money and come over and do this? Go bring them over. And then they would. Now, one of the most horrific things about this is that a child can be trafficked without the parents even being aware of what's going on because, again, kidnapping does not always accompany a child sex trafficking scenario. A trafficker can pose as a young girl's older boyfriend, convincing the young girl, the 14-year-old girl or the 12-year-old girl. This older man can convince the girl that he loves her and he's her boyfriend, whatever. But then he'll actually start selling her. But the girl is allowed to return home as if nothing happened. Sometimes she's threatened, or sometimes she's coerced into not saying anything to her parents. Maybe that child does not have a strong relationship with her parents. Maybe it's a single parent household, maybe not. But there's some level of trust that's broken that allows this trafficker to fulfill that role for this child. And the trafficker will make it sound romantic, like this is something just between me and you. So, your parents wouldn't understand. They would never understand what we're doing. But you're beautiful, you're smart, you understand. So don't tell your parents. A lot of times they're coerced into it. Sometimes they're threatened. Sometimes that happens. So a lot of times, girls specifically, sometimes boys, but it's mostly girls, can be trafficked without the parents even knowing it. The parents might notice a mood change or an attitude change, but a lot of times they just think that, well, she's becoming a teenager, this is normal, this happens, they're supposed to pull away like that. And a lot of those parents would be horrified to find out that it's actually because their child is being trafficked. So we have to be aware of that. And there's a lot of things that parents can do to minimize the risk of being of their children being targeted. So first, we need to understand at this time it's basically impossible to be completely free from any and all risk having to do with trafficking. There are some parents who do everything right, and still their child ends up becoming a target. This is what happened with Alanka Deaton, and this is why we included her in her powerful story in the film, Silent Cry. But there are things that we can do to at least lessen the risk. And they revolve around three main things: trust, strength, and knowledge. So trust, let's start with that. That's a huge factor. Parents really need to make sure they're doing everything they can to be trustworthy figures in their children's lives. So it's not all about just the parent needs to trust the kid, and we teach the kid, hey, you broke trust with me, and you got to fix that, kid. Now that does happen, and believe me, you got to do that too. But it can't be just totally one-sided. You need to earn your kids' trust too. There. In a lot of levels in parenthood, you're the parent, they're the child. There is a hierarchy there. But you have to realize you're both people. Like, you're both of equal value, right? Especially in the eyes of God, if you're a Christian watching this. You're both of equal value. You have to earn your kids' trust the same way that you would have to earn anybody else's trust. Just the same way that somebody has to earn trust with you. You have to realize your kids, they are people too. And you're responsible for them. They're a lot younger. They're not the same. There is that hierarchy. They're younger and they don't know as much, obviously. But there needs to be that level of trust. So parents need to make sure they're doing everything they can to be trustworthy figures in their kids' lives. Parents need to be beyond reproach. They need to do as little as humanly possible to give their kids an excuse to not trust them. Be clear and consistent in your expectations of your kids. Be completely open and honest, even about your own shortcomings. That is so important. You cannot act like you are right all the time, you're never wrong, and the kids just aren't allowed to question that. That will break trust so fast. I grew up in a household like that, and I'll tell you, I did not trust my parents, and it was because of exactly that. Because they sometimes they would lie and they would act like they couldn't, they wouldn't admit anytime they did anything wrong, and it made me lose trust in them, and it made me not want to admit to them when I did something wrong, because I was the kid. Most times it was me doing something wrong, but I couldn't tell them because they weren't honest with me. They didn't work to build any trust with me in those regards. So we got to get out of that mindset. We have to be open and honest with our kids about our own shortcomings. Because again, believe me, your kids are going to know your shortcomings anyway. They probably know them better than you know them yourself. Because a lot of times we as parents, we have denial. But kids, they're not going to have that about you. So they're going to know it anyway, and it will go a long way of building trust with them if you don't try and hide or lie about things that you're not perfect at. It will teach them that they can trust you and they can be honest with you about their shortcomings if they do something wrong, because they need to know that they can trust you and that you're not just going to freak out, at any little thing that happens. If you're willing to be open, they will be more willing to be open with you. Now, strength is also important. So I don't want to say, while admitting our shortcomings, that means that, we have to be like weak and we have to be humble and have humility, but we have to have strength too. Do not let your kids do whatever they want. You need to love them enough to be the strict parent that doesn't allow them to have free, open access to a cell phone, but also explain to them why, explain to them the dangers that are out there, and how these traffickers absolutely will use their cell phones to target them. You need to show them it because they might say, well, don't you trust me? Tell them it's not that I don't trust you. I don't trust the world. I don't trust these traffickers. I don't trust them. If I was a target, I wouldn't have a cell phone. You need to actually just be real with them. And, that leads to the next things that parents need. We as parents, we need to be bold without being brutes. And we need to realize that it's more important for our kids to be safe than for them to be like, than for them to like everything that we're doing or every choice we make. So you might think, well, I don't want to shelter my kid. I want him to have friends and, all that's fine. But there does come a point where you do have to ask what's more important, their safety or their social lives. And their safety is more important. Now, there's going to be a lot. You will be like the oddball in the community. You're going to be like the helicopter parent. The prude, the parent that doesn't let their kid do anything. At the same time, you can't be so scared of the world that they literally can't do anything and you keep them inside all the time, because it is definitely harmful to go too far in that direction, where you're on the other side, you're in the other extreme and you don't let your kids socialize at all. Then they're not going to be ready or prepared for the world ever. And you can't have that. But that's where knowledge comes in. Knowledge is the third thing. And, I would say knowledge and wisdom is kind of the same thing. Wisdom is kind of the end result of proper knowledge, but wisdom will come through all of these things, strength and, everything that we talked about, trust, strength, and knowledge. Wisdom will come through that. So all three of these things lead to wisdom, but knowledge is really the key here. It is so important for parents to be educated and warn their children of the dangers of the world. And many experts are saying there's no real age where they're too young to know. You just need to talk to them on the level they can understand. So you don't want them to live in constant fear, and you don't want to explain it in a way that they're too young to understand. Like, for example, my kids are really young. They haven't had, the talk yet. They're not old enough for that, but they do know that there are evil people out there that want nothing more than to hurt them. And so it's really important for them to follow the rules, do everything that we say, and allow mom and dad to keep them safe. In order for us to be able to do that, they need to follow our rules. But we tell them they have free will. Because they do. They're human beings. I can't force them to be good, and neither can you. We can't force that. So you need to instill confidence in your kids by telling them, look, we're teaching you how to exercise your free will in the best way possible, the most godly way possible, that will keep you the safest and your family the safest. Because if you don't listen to mom and dad, you could potentially be bringing bad people over. Any number of bad things can happen. And then, be open to talk with your kids. If your kid's a little older and has a question about why a certain rule exists, talk to them about it. It's good to be open. There's definitely a place for because I said so. There is a place for that. But if that's your go-to response every time, that's kind of venturing into laziness, and your kids aren't going to accept that for very long. So you have to have knowledge and instill knowledge into your kids. Talk to them at the level that they can understand. You don't want them in constant fear, but you want them to be responsible. Tell them there's bad people out there so they can start training their radar to be active at all times. So I want to speak specifically to fathers real quick, and then we're going to wrap this up and go into members-only content. Fathers, because the large majority of children who are trafficked are girls. Now, boys are steadily on the rise, but most fathers don't realize the power that they have in their daughters' lives. There is a reason men are told to love their wives like Christ loves the church. We really need to be using Jesus as our example of how to be with our wife and use that example for our kids. So first off, if there's problems between you and your wife, the kids are going to react to that. And they're going to react to it in ways you probably won't see immediately. So your relationship with your wife is incredibly important. It's of the utmost important. The only more important relationship in your life is that with God. Because if you don't have your relationship with your wife in order, you're not going to have a good relationship with your kids. Not a really healthy, trustworthy one. You can still have a relationship. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult, and it's not the way that God designed it. Imagine how damaged the church can get with a broken relationship with Jesus. That's how important this is. That's how important it is for you to not have a broken relationship with your wife. Second, think of all the ways you love and trust Jesus. Why do you trust him? What kinds of strength does he show you that builds trust with you? How does he educate and prepare you for the dangers of the world? Jesus is our example of how to be with our wife, and then by example, our kids. And that's absolutely not something that husbands and fathers should disrespect or abuse. Because of course you can go too far and say that, well, the whole household is under my iron grip of authority and rule, and then you're a totalitarian. But is that how Jesus is with us? Jesus still gives us free will, right? Even when we use it wrongly. So you can't take that too far into the totalitarian side of it. So we need to take that incredibly seriously. Your entire family literally depends on it, but especially your kids. And then what that does is you having a proper relationship with your wife, it sets your kids up for success. It sets your sons and daughters up. It shows your sons what kind of men they should grow up to be. And they'll naturally want to do that. And it'll show your daughters what kind of man, when they get older, they should find. So if a trafficker comes around when they're a teenager, or younger even, if a trafficker comes around and is not acting like dad, and this girl has a very, very strong relationship with her dad, she's not going to be fooled by him. She's not going to be fooled. Now, she will get fooled if she has a broken relationship with her father and she's looking for something to fill that need in her life. Then she absolutely will get fooled, and traffickers depend on that. Traffickers depend on your broken relationships with your kids. So those are some things that parents can do. I want to talk about this Cuties thing a little bit because there's been some recent developments with it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but that's going to be in the members only section. Again, head on over to dailyrenegade.com, and get a membership for the rest of this episode, and you'll get the rest of every Peck report. You'll get, once we start doing them again, you'll get every sharpening report. You'll get, every show that we do, you'll get the full episode. It really helps our ministry because, again, we're fighting an uphill battle. We had our main YouTube channel deleted. That's why this YouTube channel only has, a couple of thousand subscribers, if even that. We don't have many. Well, that's why. So we're fighting an uphill battle. We need your help. We need your support. Please consider going to dailyrenegade.com and getting a membership today. It really does help. And again, please watch the movie Silent Cry, The Darker Side of Trafficking. You can find it at skywatchtvstore.com, or you can just go to Amazon and view it there. Please do that and leave a review. Please leave a review. It greatly helps. It helps contribute to a culture where we can tell these streaming services, hey, we don't want smut like Cuties on Netflix. This is the kind of thing we want. We want things like Silent Cry. We want good, truthful information so we can learn from it and so we can protect our community and our kids. This is how we tell these streaming services this is what we want. You vote with your dollar. So go leave a review, rent it or buy it on Amazon if you can. If you want the DVD with all the bonus materials, go to skywatchtvstore.com. Please leave a review on Amazon or IMDb, or preferably both. Health if it'll let you. All right, so we're going to call it good for everybody viewing for free. Thank you so much. Members, hang on the line. Everybody else, love you all. Take care and God bless. My name is Josh Peck, host of Peck Report on Daily Renegade. I used to suffer with chronic pain from a degenerative bone disease. I was hopelessly addicted to opioids without any end in sight. But then, I discovered Kratom and CBD. I am no longer on prescription drugs, and I have more energy and pain relief than ever before. Kratom and CBD have given me my life back without draining my bank account. If you too would like some minor to major pain relief, Kratom and CBD might be for you. Either click on the links in the description below this video or go to dailyrenegade.com on the top left banner or right side ad and check out Tropic Health Kratom and CBD. Use promo code HEALTH20 for 20% off your order and get your life back today.